On the 30th of July 2020, His Excellency President Hage Geingob constituted a technical working group to identify government maintenance projects with available resources and design implementation modalities to execute targeted employment creation initiatives for unemployed artisans. The intervention will focus on areas of construction-related services, auto mechanic-related services and water connectivity, aligning with the objectives to promote the 3 pillars of Harambee Prosperity Plan 2, which focus on economic advancement, social progression and infrastructure development. A very good evening and a warm welcome to this edition of our COVID-19 update program. My name is Daisry Mathias and our sign language interpreter this evening is Tatyananda Shipahu. Now, to discuss the modalities and implementation of the targeted employment creation intervention by government, we're joined this evening by Ms. Daisry Mathias, Presidential Advisor on Youth Matters. Good evening, ma'am, and welcome to our COVID-19 update.
Good evening, Denver. Thank you for having me.
We're also joined this evening by Madam Esther Kapanda, Executive Director in the Ministry of Works and Transport. Good evening, ma'am, and welcome to our COVID-19 update.
Good evening, Denver, and good evening, Namibia. We are pleased to be here.
Also joining us this evening is Mr. Florian Moitulundila, who is the Chairperson of the Association of Unemployed Artisans in Namibia. Good evening, sir, and welcome to our COVID-19 update discussion.
Good evening, Denver. Thank you so much for the platform.
Joining us via telephone this evening is Mr. Matengu Simushi, President of the Association of Regional Councils. Good evening, sir, and welcome to our COVID-19 update discussion.
Good evening, Denver. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Mathias, let's please start with you. Help us understand what the premise of this initiative is.
Denver, this initiative is really premised in the Harambee Prosperity Plan 2. As you are aware, during the first phase of HPP, government intensified public investment significantly into the technical vocation education and training sector. And we have produced a large number of trained artisans who have graduated from our centers and the National Youth Service. The next natural progression was to create employment opportunities for our trained artisans. In the back of COVID-19 during 2020, where we saw rising unemployment, particularly in the construction sector, it became necessary for government to leverage its public procurement muscle and create opportunities for our artisans through the maintenance, renovation and construction of public buildings and offices.
Very well. Madam Kapanda, from your perspective, what do you make of how this initiative had come about, as explained to us by Madam Mathias?
This initiative really came about as a commitment of the government of the Republic of Namibia to bring the youth, in particular the unemployed youth, in the mainstream of the economy. The Association of Unemployed Artisans therefore knock on different doors of the government to market their skills of what they are able to do. And at the Ministry of Works and Transport, through the government, we then decided to engage this association of unemployed youth who have the requisite skills to assist the government in the renovation of dilapidated government buildings.
Thank you very much. So before we get to your take on how this initiative had come about and its importance and significance, help us understand what the mandate of the association is.
Thank you, Denver, for the question. The primary mandate of the association is to create employment opportunities for our TVET graduates. Primarily now we are focusing on those that have done construction-related trades, and that is the specific area where we have got an opportunity from our government. So yes, employment creation for the youth, and that is what we're currently focusing on.
And what do you make of this initiative by government?
I think I'm very pleased as chairperson of this association, because ever since I have engaged government, they have been really welcoming and forthcoming. They've been very supportive towards the initiative. And it is our engagement with them that actually brought about the pilot project that we have completed recently, earlier this year.
Briefly touch on your engagements with government.
My engagement with government has touched various offices, but I think that is not important for now. But collectively as government, they have really supported us through Ministry of Works and Transport, under which we have signed a memorandum of understanding. And under that memorandum of understanding, government really wanted to know what is the capability of these graduate artisans? Are they able to manage a project on their own? And as a result of that, they have then given us a test, which we call a pilot project. And these guys have really come forth, and they've done a very splendid job. And this project is just opposite the old State House. I think everyone that's really doubting their capability can really come over that side and really just see what these guys have done there.
Very well. We'll get into more particulars as the conversation unfolds this evening. Mrs. Simushi, are you still there?
Yes, Denver.
Very well. From where you stand, sir, who stands to benefit from the initiative?
Denver, thank you very much. From this initiative, who stands to benefit is the graduate artisans, including unemployed youth in our various regions, regional councils. Given the fact that it came at a right time. We have got a large number of unemployed youth, like graduate artisans in the country, in each and every regional council. Let me put it like that, very clear. We met with my chairperson in Windhoek with regard to this particular initiative, this very noble idea. And then we agreed that at least
Yes, sir.
we really recommended the brilliant idea which was brought by the chairperson of unemployed graduates, that at least it will help in absorbing those unemployed youth at the regional level. It's not only graduate artisans who are going to benefit in this noble idea, but also unemployed youth, they are going to be absorbed into this particular project at a regional level.
Now, sir, I think the buy-in on regional level is equally important, and we understand that part of your responsibility is also to sensitize other chairpersons of regional councils. Please touch on that responsibility for us.
Thank you very much. As you are aware that regional councils are headed by chairpersons of regional councils, our role is to mobilize our regional, our councillors to see to it that we integrate also the unemployed youth into the system. So that they benefit in return. We have already, when we met, we have already sensitized our communities within our respective regional councils that we have got an association of graduate artisans, which is represented by each and every chairpersons who are representing this project. This association in each and every regional council region. So there's a chairperson. So we asked a list of those unemployed graduates at a regional level whom we should initially target. So we met with our chief regional officers who are supposed then to carry out the resolutions of the regional, the regional council.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Mr. Matulundila, help us understand how many members your association has and how this initiative, how this project helps alleviate the plight of your unemployed members.
Thank you very much, Mr. Denver, again for the question. Currently, we are standing at over 5,000 unemployed graduate artisans in the whole country. As I've mentioned earlier on, that this is a national umbrella body of all unemployed graduate artisans. So really the modus operandi is that when we get a project, let me say in the Hartap region, we focus on the unemployed graduate artisans who are residents or based in that particular region. If we get a project in the Zambezi region, we still do the same.
Let's assume, given that analysis, that in that particular region, given the nature of the project, you don't have enough unemployed youthful artisans. How do you go about filling the gaps?
To be honest with you, Mr. Denver, is that so far we have not experienced any shortcomings amongst the projects that we have gotten. The numbers that we have got on our database really can supplement any project that we get through government. I think the only shortcoming that we experienced in the beginning was really the expertise of other professionals, like engineers. To that, the association has then also invited other professionals, like unemployed engineers, to come forth. And currently, we have got 10 professional engineers under the association who are distributed all over all 14 regions currently. To say if we get a project that requires really technical expertise of the highest level, then we have got the capacity to do so. Yes, and we have demonstrated like that in the pilot project that we have just completed. We have utilized one unemployed engineer there, and we are looking forward to actually just replicate the whole formula to other regions.
Very well. Madam Kapana, from the perspective of the ministry, please talk to us about the MOU between your ministry and the association, and to flesh out further the role of your ministry, please.
Yes, before we started engaging the Association of Unemployed Artisans, when they knock on our doors, obviously we have to look at what does the law entails, in particular the Public Procurement Act. So when we saw the opportunities that exist for the youth artisans and the possibility of the Ministry of Works and Transport on behalf of the government to engage the youth in the maintenance of government immovable assets, we then have to come up with a memorandum of understanding, which we concluded, we signed between the association, obviously after it was cleared by the Office of the Attorney General. And subsequent to that, we also got the assistance of the Minister of Finance, obviously to give us exemption in terms of the Public Procurement Act to engage the unemployed youth directly. So this is really how the Memorandum of Understanding came into being, because you have to have a sort of understanding or a modus operandi of how you are going to engage each other in case some legal issues comes up, hence the need for the Memorandum of Understanding. So all the regulatory framework has now been really is complied to, and that's why now we are also engaging this youth in compliance with the Public Procurement Act. So that is where the framework under which we are engaging this youth.
Speaking about being compliant with the legislation, the exception that you sought and that was subsequently granted, would you say it was justified given the nature of the project?
The exemption was indeed justified because the laws of the Republic of Namibia are very favorable, and of course their laws are made with the objective to regulate people to emancipate themselves, economically. So the laws are not made to regulate anybody into poverty. So it is very justifiable for us to get this exemption, because the exemption is targeting the youth who have got the requisite skills, and we are now able to engage them to deploy their best talents to contribute to the development of this country. So I could say we are really on the right chapter, the chapter that is engaging the youth, that is involving the youth to empower them, to give them employment in order to improve their livelihood, and also to contribute to the development of this country. We are indeed very, very grateful that we can start on this chapter.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Madam Mathias, we know a project of this nature, of this scope, of this magnitude is not possible without cross-sectoral collaboration. Help us understand how that collaboration works and which the key strategic partners are.
Thank you, Denver. I think this project becomes a very good reference point of what is possible when there's multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder collaboration. I want to give credit to the young people, to the association who organized themselves and presented themselves as a unified front and said to the government, we are ready to work with you and to meet with you halfway. It has certainly made the job easier in terms of facilitating the process. This project is being coordinated at the highest level. As you mentioned, His Excellency the President tasked a technical working group, intergovernmental technical officials, to look at the modalities of such an intervention. It has to be intentional because of the extraordinary circumstances that we find ourselves in. And I would like to acknowledge the pioneering efforts of the Ministry of Works and Transport, who led the pilot initiative as the custodian of our maintenance and rehabilitation of government buildings. Now that we have proven the concept, we are ready to replicate this model into the 3 tiers of government. We We want to cascade it down to the regional level, to the councils, to the local authorities, and also into different sectors. So we have Ministry of Works and Transport committed through an MOU, and we are also in the process of doing the same with the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture and the Ministry of Health, as well as the Ministry of Agriculture, all of who are custodians of significant government infrastructure across the country, and they have embraced the principles of this initiative. And we are starting now with rehabilitation and renovation, but of course government's intention is much bigger. We want young people to build the Namibian house. So ultimately we are talking about construction opportunities for our artisans as well. But we have to demonstrate capacity. We should not despise humble beginnings.
I think that speaks to the heart of the matter. What does it mean to have proven the concept? You know, what do we know about the capability of our artisans, given that this was only a pilot project?
So I think there's a number of indicators of success on a pilot project like this. Quality assurance is very important in terms of the oversight work on the site. These are trainees who have just come out of our TVET centers and have not necessarily had industry experience beyond their academic training. So this is also an opportunity for them to accumulate work exposure and experience.
But is it not risky to engage inexperienced professionals?
But we believe that we can manage the risks. We believe that we must create an opportunity for that experience and that capacity to be developed. And that is exactly why this is a commendable initiative by the government.
Very well. Mr. Simushi, are you still there?
Yes, Denver.
In your opinion, how will this project change the mindset around issues of TVET and National Youth Service centers around the country, seeing that the plan is to roll out the initiative to the rest of the country?
Denver, can I go back to what my colleagues were deliberating on now?
Yes.
Let me put it like this. As an association representing regional councils in Namibia, we really appreciate the government's concerted effort to support and promote youth employment in the country. And we'll continue to sensitize our members at the regional level to live up to their obligations in relation to strengthen youth employment strategies at their levels. But what I wanted to emphasize, when we roll out this project into regions, as you are aware that we have got accounting officers at the regional level, who are the chief regional officers. Under the Procurement Act, Section 74, we need to apply for the exemptions at the Ministry of Finance in order to accommodate these graduate artisans. So it is the responsibility of the chief regional officer to see to it that they write letters for exemption to the Minister of Finance, to see to it that the exemption is guaranteed to the regional councils in order to absorb or to accommodate these youth.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I should also add that the unemployed youth artisans from the pilot projects, they have actually advanced from that. They have successfully completed that to the satisfaction of the government. And they have now started with a new project. Basically, the train is in motion in terms of engaging the youth. The pilot project is done, and as we speak, the youth have been given a new project also in Windhoek. And once they finish that, we are again going to continue to give the youth additional maintenance works, amongst others.
Very well. Now, Madam Mathias explained to us that there is capacity to mitigate the risks. Now, as the custodian of maintenance of government property in the country, how do you, as the Ministry of Works and Transport, mitigate that risk of enlisting the services of inexperienced people?
Good. The youth that has been doing these renovations, for example, are not left at their own mercy. We have assigned a team in particular from the Department of Works, works inspectors who are verifying the work that they have done and certifying the quality of the work that they have done, and also assisting the association with any challenge that they might face. So, and also on the softer issues, we have also assisted the youth, taking into account that some of them, or many of them, have just been employed for the first time since after graduation. Within the ministry, we have also been giving the youth advisory services, for example, on how to handle their finances and how to also interface with each other. So the support is really there, not only within the ministry. The Office of the President has also been on board, the National Planning Commission. So it's like it was mentioned, it's a multi-sectoral approach, and the youth are getting the support that they need, besides only giving them the work.
Very well.
Yes.
So help us understand which the key challenges were that your team experienced on the job.
Thank you so much, Mr. Denver. There have been challenges. Most of the challenges that we've experienced are those of, as you have as you have alluded to earlier on, with the technical support. We are very much happy that government has really come on board, especially the Ministry of Works and Transport, that they have actually put in touch our own supervisors in the association to work well in conjunction with their own work inspectors to ensure quality deliverance of works to government. But I think also the biggest challenge is that not everyone is really happy with the initiative, considering the fact that, of course, we have got other SMEs and contractors out there who are as well benefiting or eyeing government projects. But I want to highlight that the association and government are not going to actually engage on each and every single project which is there. As they have mentioned earlier on, that so far we've only done 2 projects, and then we are going to make baby steps until we are then really fully capacitated and we are ready to take on mass projects. But we are not going to take on everything which is there. We are trying to cater for the group of young people, artisans that have been left out of the mainstream economy in our country, so that they too get a share of our government cake. That is what we are advocating for.
Very well. You shared with us earlier that one of the competencies that you don't have relates to engineers, and you did enlist the services of unemployed engineers. Which are the competencies that you do bring to the table? Myself personally? The association and its members. Which are this, as far as this project is concerned?
Thank you so much, Mr. Denver. The competencies that they bring to the table is that we are dealing with professionals here. These are guys that have gone through the government system of TVET training, of the TVET system. They have gone through, they have graduated, they've got their certificates in their coffers. So we're dealing with professionals. And in terms of engineers, yes, these are guys that have studied the type of work that we've engaged government on. So the collaboration between our engineers and the artisans, who are our main target, really has proven to bring up really quality work that government has so much, have been impressed on. Yes. So, Mr. Denver, the question about skill and capacity within the association, to be honest, it's very well answered. We have got professionals, and I tell you that all the people that we have got on our database are people with their trade certificates. And these are people that are really welcoming the initiative, given the fact that most of them have not even been engaged by the current contractors that we have got, because they already have got their fixed labor force. But because of this initiative, they are able now to get into the mainstream economy, get involved on 1 or 2 projects.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Ms. Mathias, help us understand what impact COVID-19, particularly the regulations that were in place to curb its further spread in 2020, have on the rollout of the initiative.
Denver, maybe a step back, because even before COVID-19, there were already some trends that we were beginning to observe. There was declining employment across multiple sectors, including agriculture because of the drought, construction because of our fiscal consolidation strategy as government, and then COVID-19 came to really break the camel's back, proverbially. Within the construction sector, that slowdown needed to be stimulated through government expenditure. And I think this intervention is to demonstrate exactly that The government makes up 65% of the economy expenditure. It's a significant market. And what we are intentional to do is to leverage our public procurement muscle to create that stimulus in the sectors that have been adversely affected, even by the pandemic. You are aware that the public regulations at one point prohibited on-site work of construction sites, and this affected predominantly young people, because construction and agriculture are the sectors of our economy that employ a lot of the young people and lesser skilled labor. So when we see a rising youth unemployment, there is a correlation to the drought and to the deconstruction, the decline in the construction sector.
Now, notwithstanding its noble and ambitious nature, how sustainable is this initiative?
It is sustainable because I think what we are doing is we are following through on the local procurement directive that was issued by the Minister of Finance in 2020. And that local procurement directive is really rooted in the Public Procurement Act, the preferential clause, to intentionally grant opportunities to businesses that are owned by young Namibians, female Namibians, and indigenous Namibians. As long as it's supported in the legislative framework of this country, it is within the spirit of the law that it is sustained. In terms of cascading through government sectors, I've mentioned to you that it is now being housed in up to 4 government sectors and being cascaded to the regional, to the second and the third tier of government. And that should be embraced by all the leaders at the regional level to ensure that these principles are imbibed and carried on.
Thank you very much. Madam Kapana, before I give you an opportunity, sir, we just heard Ms. Mathias touch on the issue relating to gender. How representative is your association in terms of gender?
Thank you so much for the question. I would like to mention it that the association is composed of about 45% of our members are women. Yes, really a figure that proves that we have got so many women involved in the TVET sector, so many women that would like to get involved in the construction sector, and that is our current presentation. We hope that it goes up. Yeah.
Very well. Madam Kapana, did you want to add to the sustainability of the initiative? Yes, please.
Yes, Denver. When it comes to sustainability of this project, obviously when you have given someone employment who was not employed, and then that employment is resulting in a earning of an income, is also resulting in increase of the expertise of that person. So the income that the person that you have employed who was not having any gainful employment, obviously with the income received, that person is also able to either support other family members or even to start another business that can also bring additional income with the income that is earned, and that will contribute to the sustainability of this particular project and to the beneficiaries thereof. Furthermore, as you have noted, that the pilot project was conducted at the houses that are opposite the All-State House. If you have driven there, I encourage people driving there just to admire the outcome of the pilot project, meaning the houses were so dilapidated.
Why were they so dilapidated and for such a long time?
Maybe before I get to answer that, let me just complete the issue of sustainability. The houses were so dilapidated, and they are actually in the prime area of the capital city, which is now the Central Business District.
Indeed.
We know we are all making efforts to reclaim what we call Windhoek to be considered as a clean city in Africa, to reclaim that status from the capital city of Rwanda, Kigali. So really by looking after these properties of the state, which by the way, if you look at the architecture, is the architecture of yesteryears. And many countries these days, when it comes to cultural heritage or preservation of, the yesteryears, the architecture of the 50s and the 40s. These are some of the architecture that are very attractive to tourists. And taking into account of the renovation that we did in that prime area of the city, an area which is dominated or populated by historical buildings such as museums. You see churches there. A number of tourists are commuting that area. visitors visiting Namibia, including dignitaries, are always commuting around that area. So that renovation has really added a facelift to the city. It has given a facelift to the city, and hence also that we attract tourists.
Thank you.
And then, of course, the issue of sustainability also comes in, that you are able to preserve this building for the future generation to also enjoy it.
Thank you, ma'am. But in order to accomplish those very noble goals, one actually needs perpetual maintenance. Why did we allow those houses to become so dilapidated?
It could be, it was the issue of resources. Maybe that's the response that I can give you. But what is important, what matters, is better late than never. So now we have managed to look after those buildings.
Thank you very much. Should you want to participate in tonight's very important conversation, if you have a question for one of the panelists, the number to dial is 061 291 3339. 061 291 3339. Please remember to switch off your television set to avoid any confusion. We have our first caller, Mr. Matengo, on the line. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, Denver.
Mr. Simushi, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Based on the maintenance needs in the different regions, what do you make of the expertise, of the skills that these artisans bring to the table?
Denver, you asked me the first question of saying which areas of expertise will these artisans be driven from, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Which I did not even answer. Yeah, probably what we are expecting is the artisans will be driven from, be it a plumber, electrician, all those sections. It's where they are going to be driven.
Thank you very much, sir. Perhaps you can touch on the impact of COVID-19 on the rollout of the initiative, but also on your members in general.
Thank you, Denver. COVID-19 has had a very significant impact, especially on our database, because we have experienced so many applicants that have been retrenched from various companies due to the pandemic, and that eventually they have come actually to apply, to the association, so that then they are also included in the current projects that we are doing. Yeah, so that is one of the impacts that COVID-19 have on our association. Now, because we are actually unable to cater for this huge number of artisans, we have then engaged government further, so that then, apart from the Ministry of Works and Transport, perhaps they can bring other stakeholders on board within government, as well as the private sector. There are several entities that we've engaged with the association. They've called us for presentations, and they're very much impressed, and they are willing to come on board, not necessarily to execute the type of works that they intend to do, but primarily to support the youth, because they are cognizant of the high employment situation that we are facing as a country. Perhaps your second question again?
No, we just wanted to gauge the impact of COVID-19 on the initiative, of course, and its rollout, but also on your members in general.
On our members, currently the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, due to the previous restrictions in terms of hours, some of them have not been able to reach our head office to submit their CVs. A few of them that have got access to internet, of course, they have been doing it electronically. But also, most of them are looking at the fact that they are not only looking to the association as a sole provider of employment opportunities, they are also looking to other areas. Therefore, they have also been a bit challenged, because most companies are unable to take up employees at this point in time, and therefore making it difficult for the association, because it is the only open door currently.
Thank you, sir. Just one moment, please. We have our first caller all the way from Opuwo. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good evening, sir. We're doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, sir.
Yes.
No, here, are we talking about the targeted employment creation intervention?
Yes, sir. What is your take?
My take is that COVID-19 for me, it has been an opportunity It has created an opportunity for people to get proper directions on how for them to sustain themselves. For me, COVID-19 has alerted the people, so in future we will be prepared for any emergency that is going to break out. I think Namibia is going to be very prepared in case of employment, because most people have been retrenched and stuff. Yes.
So you see it as an opportunity?
At some points.
Does that conclude your contribution this evening, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Mathias, what do you make of the caller's contribution, seeing COVID-19 and its impact as an opportunity?
I think he's right. I think you don't waste a good crisis. I think it has forced us to be very prudent with the few resources that we have. This has been quite a cost-effective intervention that has created real impact. If we talk about jobs, we created 120 jobs for artisans residing in the Khomas region during 8 months. We believe that this number can be significantly increased when we begin to roll out the pilot into the regions. And this is consistent with government's intention for employment-centered budgeting in the HPP2. And we are hoping that we will be able to create new jobs in new frontiers of growth, in new sectors. We are driving construction through interventions like this. We also want to work on agriculture. It's a prioritized sector in the HPP2 to create jobs for young people. And even the new frontier, the new industry of renewable energy through green hydrogen promises to generate a lot of new young jobs for young people. It is about impact.
Thank you very much. You're speaking about 8 months. Help us understand very briefly the timeline of the initiative since the President made the announcement on the 30th of July 2020.
His Excellency constituted a technical working committee on the 30th of July 2020, and November 2020 we were able to hand over the site to the association, officiated by Honorable John Mutowa, the Minister of Works and Transport. In August, I believe the 11th of August 2021, government received back the completed houses, which were received by His Excellency the Vice President Nangolo Mbumba.
Why did it take so long?
I believe that there were some, and the artisans can speak for themselves, but I believe that there were some delays on site with the construction that had to do with the procurement of materials because of the process of procurement that government is subjected to. And that is what may have created some delays on site. But we had initially given a 6-month pilot project, and the site was handed back to government in 8 months, so it was only an 8-week overrun.
Very well. We have Mr. Moshekele from Oshakati on the line. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Moshekele.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you, sir?
Fine. I think it's first, let me commend the government for what they're doing, a great initiative. But I think we have a problem there, because if we are targeting youth that are unemployed that did TVET, what about the other youth? What about the youth at the village? What about the youth that did agriculture or law, that come up with a good business initiative that is sustainable, mind you? So I think in light of that, I think it's a good project. I commend it. However, we must also not forget that we have other youth that didn't do TVET. What are we going to do about it? Is there a policy that will come in the future or that will support this kind of initiative with the ones that didn't do TVET? Because mind you, not everyone did TVET. So what are we going to do about that?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Mathias, can you perhaps let us take a slight step back? How did the decision come about to prioritize the artisans, and what is the way forward relating to the caller's question?
I think the caller is absolutely right that we have to take a multi-dimensional approach to arresting youth unemployment. But the key word here is targeted intervention. And this was in recognition that there was need for government to intervene and to provide additional support and opportunities to this particular sector, highlighting that we have made significant investments in increasing the capacity of TVET. So we have nearly doubled the capacity of the TVET sector in terms of output over the last 5 years. But the economy has been contracting gradually over the same period, which means that opportunities for job creation were becoming more scarce in that sector of construction.
That's not producing too many artisans.
No, we're not even producing too many artisans because at the moment we don't have enough capacity to accommodate the number of applicants across the country. So the demand for the sector is much higher than the capacity that is currently
Help us
available.
understand what that means when the employment opportunities are so scarce. Help us understand why are we not overproducing artisans?
No, I think this is a sector that creates trades and vocations and creates an immediate opportunity for young people to become employers of labor. And you can never overproduce skills in a developing economy that is still being built. What we need to create is the capacity to absorb all the young people who have interest to equip themselves with different skills and trades. And that is what government is ramping up in its investment in the TVET sector. But to respond to Mr. Mwashekele, the Harambee Prosperity Plan 2 also contains government's economic recovery program. And economic growth will be a response of us, it will be the outcome of a number of interventions. I did indicate that there were other sectors that have been prioritized beyond construction, which include agriculture, the green and the blue economy, housing, and all of these are sectors that will create new employment opportunities because of capital and investment that will be channeled to increase the capacity of those sectors.
When is that expected to happen?
Every single one of those projects has got its own timeframes. If we look at agriculture, the Minister of Agriculture has made a commitment to put 10 green schemes up for Triple P. That means inviting private capital, private sector to manage and to invest in the green schemes of government so that we can significantly increase the productivity and absorption of that sector. That has its own time frames.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Kapanda, Ms. Mathias explained some of the delays to us. Talk to us about the monitoring and evaluation systems that are in place to ensure that the people deliver.
Yes, Mr. Denver, obviously when you are starting with a new project, there will always be some sort of teething challenges. But the challenges that we experienced were not of a nature that were insurmountable. Like it was mentioned, issues having to do with procurement. We have now identified those weaknesses and we have also found solutions.
What were those weaknesses?
For example, the weaknesses, we of course float a tender to be able to get a supplier, a company that should supply us with materials. Eventually, one company got that tender to supply all the materials that were needed by the youth. It then came at a time if the youth needed a specific volume of materials, they were not available in that shop. Of course, one also have to bear in mind that the supply chain was affected by COVID. Maybe you needed X number of cement, just an example, and you were only able to get this much. But all those, we have found ways of overcoming them. But let me also just come back again to the issue of ensuring that this program of engaging the unemployed youth, not necessarily only the artisans like the Mr. Mwashekele, the caller mentioned, that other youth who are also unemployed are brought in the mainstream of the economy. We earlier touched on the issue of sustainability. Of course, the development of our beloved country cannot only be left at the forte of the government. It requires other stakeholders also to come on board to complement what the government is doing. It could be corporate institutions. I don't have to name them in this country. As part of their corporate responsibility, we are also inviting them to come on board. Like I said, the development of the country can only be realized amply if we all come on board, in particular the private sector. So I think at this point, I should also just use this platform to invite corporate entities who has ideas or who even want to contribute to the success of this particular program. Either they want to contribute in kind or they want to contribute in monetary terms. The State Finance Act has made provision for anyone who wants to contribute anything or to donate anything to the government to do so. So really for the stakeholder to come on board, that we all ensure that this project is very sustainable beyond our own, lifespan, if I might put it that way,
Thank you
to
very
serve
much,
the
ma'am.
Namibian child.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome back, Mr. Simushi.
Yes, Senator.
We've unfortunately run out of time. What are your concluding remarks this evening? What is the way forward from your perspective?
Thank you very much, Denver. Sometimes we, as Namibians, we should learn to accept the initiative, the role which the government is playing. You see, this is a noble idea, what I can say. It's a noble idea whereby each and every board of us supposed to participate in the regions. Be it private sectors or government, they should come on board to help unemployed. When we met as regional councils, we deliberated on the issue of unemployed youth, not specifically for artisans alone, but also to absorb unemployed youth. I heard Mr. Mashekele code from Oshakati. That was definitely, it is a brilliant idea. What we were looking at is to absorb a number of people, those who are not employed, not specifically graduate artisans, but whenever they are given that opportunity at a regional level, they are contracted. They should perhaps also employ artisans.
Thank you, sir.
Definitely, yes. We have got a large number of unemployed youth in the regions. At least let us not only concentrate on graduate artisans, but also to absorb unemployed youth.
Thank you very much for your time this evening, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mutulundila, your brief concluding remarks this evening, please. Do you have hope for the unemployed artisans in this country?
Definitely, and the message that I have to all graduate artisans in our country is that government has demonstrated really a deliberate intention to support the association, to support the artisans, and therefore patience is all what matters. Let us be patient. Let us give government a chance. Let us give private sector a chance. We have written a number of proposals to various stakeholders. I'm very much optimistic that they're going to come on board.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Kapanda,
Welcome.
your brief concluding remarks. Is there light at the end of the tunnel?
There is definitely light at the end of the tunnel, and I just want to urge my fellow Namibians to continue on a chapter of peace and inspiration in Namibia, while giving our best talents to relentlessly continue achieving the development goals of our country, and also to continue the social and economic renaissance of Namibia.
We have a very serious responsibility.
Indeed.
Yeah. Madam Mathias, you have the final word this evening.
No pressure.
Absolutely none.
Denver, I would like to assure the young people of our country that government has its eyes fixed on the numbers. We recognize the challenging times that we are in, but I also want to provide assurances that we are being responsive, we are being agile to providing interventions that can resolve the challenges. Let us use redemptive language. Let us focus on the solution and not focus on unemployment. Let us talk about enterprise development, business rescue and business creation. Let's talk about inclusive growth. That is what is going to help us to come out of the challenge. I also call every accounting officer to be intentional and procure local goods and services so that we can provide economic stimulus.
Are we being responsive and agile enough?
Increasingly so.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Fellow Namibians, remember that together we shall overcome. From all of us here at the NBC COVID-19 Update Desk, it's good night and goodbye.